Welcome to All Voices. I have another special guest with me. She is Miss Octavia Cordon. Octavia, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing fine, thank you. This is another part of the political series. As you well know, there are some good elections coming up this year, some for city council, and we have a new one here, and this is for Kanawha County School Board. Octavia, before I get into my questions, please tell the viewers something about Octavia Cordon.
Well, Octavia, something you guys should know about Octavia. I enjoy spending time with my family. I enjoy educating and helping others. I have a passion and a love for my community where I reside, which is Charleston, West Virginia at the moment. I'm originally from New York City. Migrated here close to 20 years ago, and I loved it ever since I've been here. So I'm just thankful. I'm part of the mountain state, and my stay has been great so far. So
All right, you ready to get started?
yes, sir.
All right. My first question to you is, since you're running for Kanawha County School Board, my
Yes,
first
sir.
question is, why?
Well, one reason, and I know we don't have all night, but one of my main reasons for running for the Kanawha County School Board is it's always been in the back of my mind to see how much more I can do within my community, as well as how more involved I can get within my children's education. I've always considered myself an active and engaged parent. All of my children have gone through KCS system, so I'm pretty knowledgeable of, a lot of the policies and the procedures. And like I said, I've always prided myself on being really engaged. And I also pride myself on educating and sharing information that I've acquired with other parents and other families on the same platform. So I've always had a passion to be involved and also to learn more, of what my children are learning and also what they're experiencing through the school system. And I just totally believe that, I have a background in education. I come with a different perspective. Like I mentioned earlier, I am a parent, of course, and I'm also an educator, so I have that perspective as well. And I'm also a part of my community. So I think all those three areas is very crucial and important to be a part of those conversations that's being held in our Kanawha County School Board. So that's one of my biggest push for running, is because I want to try to create a more unified platform where all those voices are being heard at the same time.
Octavia, when we look at the Kanawha County School Board, they have taken taken a beating on a lot of issues. One happened to be diversity. What are your thoughts on that?
I guess it kind of depends. Can you narrow it down when you talk about diversity? What are you speaking from? Like diversity, when you say diversity?
Well, some say, well, we know that when it comes to being elected to school board, I mean, you have to go through the democratic process of being voted in.
Okay.
But just the general body of Kanawha County School Board as a whole, some say that there is no diversity.
Okay.
Just maybe one or two here and there, but I mean, the diversity is not as big.
Okay, well, I'll speak on diversity a little bit, and and like I said, when I think about diversity, there's many things that come to my mind, and when I look at the current board, in my sense, I think it's diverse in a sense of, background, gender, education, occupation. There's a lot of different diversity in that area. Now, if you're talking about race, then of course, we don't have that much of a diversity if we're leaning towards that direction. So, and I've been asked that question, like, hey, we need some diversity. How do you feel about that? I think it's more, I'd love to see more diversity. Don't get me wrong, because I definitely like to be included in that equation. But I don't think whether I was a African-American or a white person or, a different race for that matter, my passion is still the same of being included in that equation, of being a part of that platform. But I think I think diversity, has to do with a lot of different perspectives as well, different life experiences. Like I said, I'm a parent and I'm not taking away from any other member on the board presently, because I'm pretty sure they're parents as well. But like I said, I'm really invested in my community and I've also been invested in my children's education. So I think, that's a real diverse perspective I can bring in, not just leaning on race anyway. But I think I can definitely bring in a diverse share of perspectives, experiences, and different share of opinions for that matter. So if we say diversity it needs, hey, diversity is what it needs for sure.
Octavia, um, Kanawha County Board of Education received, to my understanding, $82 million
84.
from the American Rescue Funds. Where should that money, where should some of that money go, in your opinion?
I think definitely a lot of the funding should go towards a lot of the areas of concern, which, in my with my little bit of research I've looked at, there's some concerns, of course, about children's safety, children and staff safety, students, so definitely funding should definitely go that route to make sure that our children are safe, our staff is safe because they're there educating our students, administrators, anything that can help create a more safer and healthier environment for those that's going to be involved in there, for sure, that bucket for sure. And then of course we got to look at the academic, issue, to where, a lot of kids have been homeschooled and, been doing a lot of the virtual learning and stuff like that. Not every student can learn in that environment. So there are potential risk of students being behind, academically. So definitely there should be a bucket for that, to create some more educational opportunities, educational enrichment to help bring those kids back to, the baselines of where they need to be. So we definitely need, if not half, should certainly go in that direction. And then also, I feel a lot of it should go towards the staff, the administrators, the people that's actually, putting in that extra time that takes to, prepare for these lessons. A lot of the lesson plans and everything that they're utilizing are being modified now to accommodate these children in this whole transition process. So we definitely need some funding to help incentivize that. I'm pretty sure there's staff and, administrators that's, like I said, working even harder than before, because they're also balancing not only their work life, but also their personal life. So we definitely gotta make sure that they have what they need as far as resources and anything for that matter, that's gonna help them not only to bring these kids back, like I said, to the baseline, but also to ensure that their family is getting what they need as well. Because without the teachers, we still can't run a school. So we definitely got to make sure that the teachers' needs and concerns are met for sure, and then, a lot of the infrastructure, there's a lot of things that might need to be modified or improved or created, in these different environments, whether it's the school building, anything for that matter, outside of the school, anything in the school environment that's connected to the schools directly, or even within the community where there's other places or hubs that can be created to help with that educational enrichment opportunity to help bring these kids back to the baseline. So those are like the three areas I can think of off top. I'm still kind of doing my research to kind of find out, those top 5 concerns that, everybody's talking about. So I'm going to do, a good job, hopefully, and try to educate myself on those areas and see where the greatest needs are, honestly. But that's why we got to all come to the table and let's make some sense out of this to see what makes more practical sense for everybody that's going to be directly affected by it.
Octavia, when we look at the school curriculum, a lot of people are not happy about it.
Mm-hmm.
Is this something that, if you are elected, is this something that you're willing to change, or do you feel that it's this will do?
Well, it's definitely something I'm going to look more into, and I say that because my background, of course, is education, and actually my degree is actually in curriculum and instruction. So that's something I spend a lot of time on, looking at curriculum and stuff like that can help different districts, different schools, different areas, different states. But we know well that there's no one size fit all with curriculums. We have so many different type of learners. We have so many children that's on different levels. They learn different ways in different formats. So we definitely need to assess where we are so that way we can kind of see where we need to be and what's going to be the best solution or best resource for our children. There's not going to be no one size fit all, honestly. And I know it's hard because people think, hey, this isn't going to work and this is not going to work. But we, instead of A and instead of B, we might have to create a C to see what's going to work for everyone. And like I said, there's no one size fit all because it's definitely not going to work for every student. But I think with the proper research and the proper assessments of what we're utilizing now, over the last couple of years, we can come up with something to where it's going to be able to be feasible for everybody involved in Kanawha County anyway.
Correct me if I'm wrong here. I believe that the legislature have voted to where they are redirecting public funds for public schools to go to private and charter schools.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on that?
I need a little bit more information because from what I know about charter schools is from my background when I lived in New York. So I don't really have an in-depth knowledge of how it would affect this environment and what are all the avenues that's taking place. Like is there gonna be something sacrificed versus is it gonna be a benefit? Is it gonna not be a benefit to others? I think I need a little bit more information to kind of weigh in on that discussion.
To my understanding, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, just like I said, I come from a bigger city, totally different from Charleston, West Virginia, and I mean, there were benefits for charter schools in New York City. But like I said, charter schools can be different, in Charleston, West Virginia versus in the middle of Manhattan. So I think there's a lot of different other factors that people need to try to consider. And like I said, I'm first to admit, if I'm not sure or if I'm not really familiar or educated about something, I definitely like to, have an opportunity to learn a lot more about it before I have a position on it for sure. But I don't know too much about it to know, to give you the answer that you need, if that makes sense.
To my understanding, I believe that charter schools is probably funded by the parents of, and again, I could be wrong. I mean, I'm not from here either.
Right.
But I went to public schools.
Right.
So, I mean, I never experienced the charter school experience.
Right.
But I'm always of the mindset of whether it's private school, private Catholic, charter, if that's what you want for your child, then you pay for it.
Right.
A good portion of state revenue goes towards education.
Right.
So now you're redirecting it to these schools over here, in which, again, public schools as a whole, I mean, again, we look at West Virginia, one of the poorest states in the nation, and money is needed.
Right.
Not just education, but other areas. But we're talking about totally education here. So my thought is, my way of thinking is, why not put in more funding for, say, books? Because I know there are some schools that they don't have books. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, okay. You say you need more information. Okay, that's fine. I get that. Okay.
No, that's fine. And I think I can speak to that because, even with the scenario that you gave, I think it's a list of things that we could look at, from a state standpoint, from a county standpoint, even down to the city standpoint, that there are budgets created and, we all have an opinion on what we feel is the need is. Okay, this can go towards this. Why not use this for that? And that's to say, I mean, I think it's the same thing in this situation. And like I said, please remember, I don't know too much about charter schools and what the effects are here. And if it's going to be pulled from, state funding and funneled to the private sector, I don't know too much about that to say yay or nay. So, but I will say, I'm sure there's reasonings on both sides. And, and I love to hear those reasons. Like, why do you feel it shouldn't go versus why shouldn't it go? Because you just said earlier, parents and families should, have that right to choose, what type of education their children have, and I even myself as a parent, that I've considered private school for my children when I felt that the public school sector wasn't working. But, at one time when I was in undergrad, I had my son in Catholic school at one point, and I had to pull him because I couldn't afford it. So then you run into stuff like that because just because someone, they want a different opportunity for their child, in the academic, realm, but they can't afford it. But, should they still be denied that right if there's going to be funding to provide them that opportunity? So I think a lot of times it's just trying to understand why people feel the way they feel and why they have that position where they are. And then I think it'll kind of help us better understand, why things are the way they are. Why do we have this side versus this side? And then maybe, the side C, like I mentioned earlier. So I think it's just a lot of factors that, we need to consider because like I say, I mean, there's budgets created and, I've seen a couple budgets and I'm wondering myself like, hey, why didn't they use this for this? And shouldn't they spend more money on this? And, things like that for that matter. I mean, I think it's the same scenario, like, why shouldn't we, or why should we? But, it's just going to take a lot of, getting ourselves educated on the whole process instead of kind of looking in and seeing what we can only see, versus getting all the information and all the details and, hearing those testimonies from families that feel like, hey, I really need this. Hey, public school hasn't worked for us. Hey, I'm just going to homeschool my kids. So people have reasons behind that. And I just hate to disregard people's position, without kind of trying to understand, why they feel that way, if that makes sense. So.
Now, we've heard countless numbers of parents saying, I'm going to call the school board because this teacher didn't do this or the teacher didn't do that, things of that sort.
Right.
If you were elected to the school board, how do you handle a teacher related situation to where he or she isn't doing the right thing?
Well, I think a lot of it, like in the beginning of the school year, those are ample opportunities for teachers, families to kind of create that platform and establish that relationship, and I don't know everybody's situation. I don't know how every school is ran, but from my knowledge and, like I said, from years and years of being involved in the KCS experience, my kids' school always had like an open house, give you those opportunities to meet the teachers and, just kind of exchange those phone numbers, exchange emails. So that way, you can create those relationships and those direct communications with these teachers, because they're with your kid probably half the day, in a day's time. And they probably know more than most parents know about their kid, honestly. So I think the key is trying to create those opportunities where the teachers and the parents or guardians, can kind of establish that relationship. Because I think the more you stay involved and connected with those teachers, it'll help keep them in the loop of what's going on, which I believe would help minimize a lot of the issues that teachers are facing and parents are facing. Because that's one thing I've always tried to do. When school started, I try to get all my kids' teachers' names, get them on a first name basis, get their emails and let them know like, hey, if you are having those problems or if you encounter any issue with my kid, you have my number, you have my cell phone number, you got my personal email, you got my work cell, my work email, all of those things. So I think it's about starting off with that solid foundation of communication with the parents and the teachers. So that way they can, that way once it's established, it'll kind of help, alleviate that. Because I want to think that any teacher that's having issues, like that for that matter, and I'm sure there are many, they probably don't have a direct relationship with the parents or someone, or a guardian, to where, they can feel that, we're working together. It's not about you, it's not about me, it's about the success of the child. So I think if there's more opportunities, more family nights, more parent engagement nights and stuff like that, open school nights, do those once, twice a year, throughout the year with the parent and teacher conferences, increase those opportunities so the parents and the school can get connected, so that way there's no gap in communication. And then we got to also utilize many forms of communications. A lot of times Parents don't have emails, they don't have phones or whatever. So I think it's on the school and also, KCS to ensure that there are multiple ways to reach out to families, in case, when it's situations like that. So I think it's come from both ends. It's going to take effort from both ends for sure. And that's definitely something I would like to see strengthened for sure, is to create that community, get that more of that community engagement, because we don't see a lot of that. And our schools are a part of our community. So it's vital that they be heavily involved in the whole process that's happening with the schools for sure.
Octavia, here comes the hard part.
All right, I'm ready. I'm ready.
You ready? Okay.
I'm ready.
House Bill 498, the anti-racism bill. I interviewed a gentleman and his wife the other evening concerning House Bill 498. We kept going back and forth, and my way of thinking is basically it's about Black history.
Okay.
And he keeps saying it's racism. It doesn't say Black history. It's racism, anti-racism. What are your thoughts on that bill?
Can you share a little bit more about that bill? I
Well,
apologize.
okay.
I'm not too familiar.
As of right now, in the legislature,
Okay.
the House Education, it passed in the House Education Committee as well as the House Judiciary Committee. So the next step would be on the main floor.
Right, right.
There may be, it may revert back to the Senate side, but it already passed in the Senate. So now it's up to the House. It's on them. My question to you, and again, it's about you. The teachers cannot talk about race, and to me, is in fear of hurting a certain group's feelings.
So is the topic? Are you referring to not having like Black history a part of curriculum? Are we talking about that exactly? When you say race is pretty broad.
Well, here's the thing. Okay, you cannot talk about Black history and not talk about racism. It's impossible.
Okay? I mean, I agree. I agree. I agree.
I mean, I gave the gentleman and his wife this example here. December 1st, 1955, Rosa Parks was arrested because she refused to give up a seat to a white man.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how do you strip the racism part out of it?
Right. I mean, I understand that now because, I mean, even a little bit of, we always, when we see history, Black history, February come around, everybody's talking about Dr. King, and Rosa Parks and stuff like that. And even in their life, racism existed. So I don't know how you even give a recap of his life without talking about the things that he encountered throughout his life, which, right, like you said, racism was heavily involved with that.
Last week, March 3rd, marked the 57th anniversary of Bloody Sunday across the Emmett Bridge. How do you strip the racism out of it? Right. So, I mean, what are your thoughts on that? How would you, well, I'm not gonna ask you how would you, I'm not gonna do that. What are your thoughts on House Bill 498?
Well, I think it's about content. Like I said, I can try to understand both sides, whether, it's a nay or a yay, but I think it's really important to pay close attention to the content because, I mean, like I said, even now on every age level, whether it's elementary, whether it's pre-K, whether it's middle school, there's always a way to disseminate information, and I'm not saying, totally strips of, but what I can educate a high schooler about, I certainly can't educate a preschooler about, or even an elementary student for that matter. So I'm not, like I said, I totally agree with, trying to take away, it's like you're trying to obstruct history, the true story of what's actually being told or recap, but I think it's about content. I mean, and if it's something that goes any further, I think it's real important to worry about how that information is going to be disseminated. And I'm not saying, modify history but I think it's definitely a way to make sure that, all of our students are educated, just like we're educated about civil rights and, West Virginia studies. All these things are history, and it's the story that they tell us. We hear about everything, and our students as well, but they don't hear about everything at every level, So if there's a way to try to, and I hate to say modify because I don't like to modify stuff, from its original form, but if there's a way to shield, the students that's not ready for the full version, there's ways, and that's when communication and discussions are going to have to come and play, and we might have to get other people or even other cities and other states involved to try to see how they're working this, because I'm sure we're not the only one running this race right now. And I'm sure it's being done other places, but I think it's really important for us to educate ourselves to see how that, without us concealing the true history, but also making sure that it's not even safe, but, it's censored enough to where it won't really, affect our students. Yeah, if that makes sense. So, I mean, that's really all I could say about that, really, because like I said, I just don't think every kid is ready for those conversations. Like I said, even some middle school kids, I think there's some things that would have to definitely be, switched around or even, altered. I mean, even if it comes to, a particular curriculum or where, it's designed and customized for, the high school, audience or the middle school audience. So it's definitely going to have to, the content is going to definitely matter when it's disseminated on each grade level. But I definitely feel that, it shouldn't, there's no way to separate the both. I do believe that. I find it hard to do that without having those tough discussions for sure. So, but it's going to definitely weigh in on the way the content is delivered for sure, definitely.
Yeah, see, when it comes to that, and let's face it, right now, West Virginia is a copycat state. I've addressed this before where the legislature, Republican-led on both chambers, they have taken a page from the abortion ban from Texas, okay? And now they're doing this because, again, this anti-racism, I mean, this started in Florida. Well, of course, other states are doing it as well, but the main thing is out of Florida.
Right.
Again, I think it's crazy. And again, we are, this state is becoming so diverse and so multicultural.
Mm-hmm.
It has to be addressed at some point. And so again, I hope there's a happy ending to this. I have a few more things and I'm gonna let you go.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people have complained about the snow as far as inclement weather protocol. Folks have complained and say, you know what, they wait till the very last minute and this and that, blah, 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 call schools off. You get.
I've endured it. I've endured it.
Talk about that. Go ahead.
I've endured it. Like I said, you get those calls, the weather, the snow is coming and, and then here it is 6 o'clock. It's like, everybody's halfway out the door and then you get that call and say, hey, school is closed, and I really, I've always wondered, who's actually the last person to make that call? Like, do you guys really think, the weather's going to shift gears, after all we've seen the day before, the weatherman saying this and all this stuff like that. And, who makes that last final call? And I believe in being, I think I'll give you this analogy. So I'd rather go out with my umbrella, in case it rains. And then if it does rain and I don't have my umbrella, so I just believe in always being prepared anyway, just in case it happened, because I'd rather be caught with it and don't need it than, caught without it and need it, if that makes sense. So I mean, it's frustrating, it's frustrating. And I honestly don't know, why, like I said, or whom, is the person that makes that final call to say, hey, but I honestly believe it's about days, because I've always, from what I've read and what I've researched, is almost like, they try to prevent those kids from missing those days, because there's a certain amount of days that has to be met, throughout the school year, yada, yada, yada. But it's about safety. You know what I'm saying? It's about safety, because there's been many days I've left out here and the roads was totally bad, but, we're out here, so honestly, I'm not sure who's communicating with who. But I think there's a little bit more work that need to be done in that area, because like I said, I've seen calls where it's nothing and it's closed. And then next thing I know, I'm sliding down my hill and school is open and I'm trying to get my daughter to school. So, it really doesn't make sense, but my goal is to try to make some sense out of it and find out what, like, what's the real deal? Like, who's making these calls? Like, seriously, because it really doesn't make sense. And honestly, it really should be about the safety of kids. And I mean, I know you'll get parents on both sides, like, oh, they need to be in school. Oh, my kid ain't going. So it's really, like I said, no one size fit all, but it has to be safety first. That should be the main priority. And I'm sure both sides can agree that safety is first for the students, the teachers, and everybody that got to be out there trying to get their kids to school, or vice versa. Or, keep in mind that, hey, if there is no school, we got a kid that like not have childcare. I don't know. Parents got to work. We're going to deal with all that stuff. But you know what? We can't solve all those issues. We can't please everybody, but we can try to compromise and make some sense out of all this. That's for sure.
I can keep going and keep going and keep going. But I know you
Look,
got.
I know.
But I know you have some campaign work to do. Okay. Now, I asked you this in the beginning, why?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm a voter. I don't know. So, Octavia, final question. You have 2 minutes.
Why?
Convince me to vote for you. Go.
I'm the type of person, I just like to speak from my heart. Every time I've been given the opportunity to speak, even in my work capacity, personal capacity, people call me to speak, and I get there and I write all this stuff, write 1 page, write 2 pages, write 3 pages, and I found out that when you talk from your heart, it just can't be rehearsed. So that's why I always pride myself on, just speaking from my heart. And education is my passion. Like I said, I don't have a, I don't have $1 million campaign, and I don't, I don't have rich friends, and, I'm just a regular person. I'm a regular mom, I'm an educator, I'm from New York. I love my community. I love my family, and I love meeting new people. And I love helping people, and I enjoy doing that. If I can, I went into education not for the money, because I know there's no money in education. I went into education because I have a passion for, helping students and teaching students and helping others. Like I said, I'm a mom, and I understand the issues that we face daily, on making decisions to ensure that our kids have, the best education and everything they need to be successful. That's a hard task to do. I share that burden of a lot of parents, of trying to make sure that our kids have what they need and fighting for them. And sadly, some parents don't have that. They don't have those skills to do that. So I feel that's my job. I feel that I'm in a position, and God put me here to ensure that I educate, my peers and, other families, and also students, that, no matter where they are in life, they can definitely fulfilled their dreams and goals by making sure that they get connected with those resources and connected with those people that can make that happen. And then I know there may be people that don't have the capacity, like parents. And I want to ensure that they have that opportunity to be educated and not only, become more aware of, what's happening, not only in their community, but also what's happening in their children's education. I want to make sure that they have that opportunity, although they're juggling life. So I just think it's my time. I think, it's my time. Like I said, I'm just really passionate about, what I do. And I really, I just want to see a school system that can excel. I mean, we're at the bottom of the list in everything, West Virginia. So I just want us to kind of be proud of something. Let us be proud of our academic and our education system, to where our students don't want to leave the state when they graduate. They want to stay here and be, citizens of their community and build a better, build a better system, build a better community. So I want to be a part of that. I want to be a part of that. So I'm excited about this journey, and I'm excited to, try to collaborate and create that unified platform, like I mentioned earlier. And I invite everybody to do the same. I think we can do a lot more, if we work together and if we try to understand everybody else's perspective, because we can't go nowhere in division, and I think, our parties divide us, but I think the work that we can do together can definitely unify us. So I definitely deserve your vote.
Octavia Cordon for Kanawha County Board of School Education. If I said it right, Kanawha County School Board of Education. Board of Education.
Right.
Ms. Cordon, thank you very much for coming on Our Voices. Appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon, okay? Don't go anywhere, okay?
Thank you.
Welcome back to Our Voices. I have a good guest with me. He's a good friend of mine. He and I, we go back to the days of spinning tunes on the radio station. He is Mr. Emmett Pepper. Emmett, how you doing,
Ray?
buddy?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, man, thank you for coming on, man. As you well know, we're in political season right now, especially for the city of Charleston. There are a number of positions up for grabs, and you are one of the candidates. I know that you have been appointed. You replaced John Kennedy Bailey due to an unfortunate circumstance with him, and of course, my condolences go out to his family. Before I go into my questions, Emmett, please tell the viewers something about Emmett Pepper.
Yeah. So I'm. Well, first off, yeah. It's been a swirl of emotions being appointed and filling in for John after he passed away. I was the first chair of the green team for the city. So that's a citizen-run advisory body that helps the city, become a little bit more sustainable and save money and those sorts of things. And so John was the chair of the Environment Recycling Committee. So I worked pretty closely with him, and And so it was, I saw him as, you know, a mentor. And so it was really sad to, you know, for him to pass away so suddenly. And you know, I'm up for the challenge. I'm excited to be able to do this work, and so I've really tried to hit the ground running. And I see as my mission to continue that work that he has been doing, as well as to think of some of my own things that I want to work on. So. Yeah, I'm a lawyer. I grew up here in Charleston. I grew up on the west side. I grew up in the hills of the East End and also in South Hills. Also spent a little bit of time outside the city in Cross Lanes, and moved away. Worked in the Northeast for a few years, and at 32, I went to law school, and so I you know, kind of shifted directions after being out in the workforce for some time. I was working mostly for nonprofits for energy and environmental issues. So went to law school and then came back home. So it's been a lot of fun being back here. And you know, I think the small city life. You know, I lived in New York, I lived in DC, lived in Connecticut. The small city life, I think, is something that is not really can't be beat, because you know, I was talking to Jonathan Frazier the other day. You can get anywhere in Charleston in 10 minutes. I mean, you know, you can't try to get from the Bronx, where I used to live, to, you know, downtown Manhattan, where I'd like to hang out. You know, it's like an hour and a half in the subway. It's brutal. So anyway, we have lots of arts and stuff here too. There's a lot of really cool things happening.
Now, as you well know, I'm a Washington, D.C. native as well. And you went to school, American University?
I did. That's good. Good memory. Yeah.
I didn't know that AU had a law school, but I mean, I know Georgetown and Howard, GW. Now, Messiah with the GW.
Oh, okay.
I believe so. Law school. Yeah.
Yeah, Anthony Magistro went to Georgetown. Yeah, but you know, and I'm never going to be the most famous West Virginian from American University, Washington College of Law, because Robert C. Byrd graduated from there too. So
AU, okay.
Yeah, and Kevin Baker. I don't know if you know Kevin. He's a city attorney. Yeah. He went there too. So
good. You know, when I came out of high school, AU wasn't on my mind. I mean, it was something else. But yeah, it's one of those. It's one of those hidden big schools in DC.
Yeah, up on the hill there. It was fun. I mean, DC is just, I mean, you know, it's a blast. I had a great time being in DC for sure. And it's been really cool being back though. You know, my dad still lives here, and my mom has been moving around a little bit, but she used to live around here as well. And so, you know, reconnecting with family. And I mean, I think that's part of why people want to live. You know, people move around mainly for work, you know, I think. But also what keeps people somewhere is having family or having friends or other connections, and also having the lifestyle that they want, you know. So that's what I think WTSQ, I think that's all about, you know, keeping people here. Having, you know, the movie theater that I helped, you know, put together, but also Taylor Books. I mean, festival, Live on the Levee, like all this stuff it enriches our lives, and that's why people want to stay, and they try to find ways to stay. Things like that. So yeah, I mean, it was fun being in DC for sure.
You ready to get started?
Yeah.
Question number 1. And you heard of this cliche before. Let me ask you this right here.
Your catchphrase.
There you go. You being in office as at large, and again, you're running for re-election. How is that coming along? And again, you said it's been mixed with emotions. tell me, just what's it like?
Yeah, I mean, so well, for one thing, I'm learning about different parts of the city, and just like I mean, I hope that anybody who talks to their public officials tries to put themselves in their shoes too, because I mean, imagine if if something tragic like that happened and someone appointed you, what would you do? I mean, that's what happened to me. I didn't run for this. I wasn't. This wasn't part of my 5-year plan. Honored to do it and taking it very seriously. So what it's been like is, I've looked into and thought really deeply and asked people I trust about what are some things that we could be doing to make our city better. And sometimes the answers were, surprising and things I wasn't really thinking about. And sometimes they were, I had things that I already wanted to do. For instance, John and I were already working on recycling. And so that's something we're still struggling with. It is really complicated. And I don't know that I can make promises that we're going to fix it, but I really want to. First bill I introduced though was about, from talking to people, was about vacant properties and blighted properties that are just empty and sitting vacant. And we all know that things can happen in those buildings. There's a lot of fires, there's illegal activity, and it just like it's a bummer on the neighborhood. Nobody wants to have a boarded up house on their street. And so when the mayor and the council went in 3 years ago, they already like bolstered the law that was in place for registering a vacant building. So you're supposed to, if it's been empty for X number of time and fits certain criteria, you're supposed to register, or the city can register for you. And what they did is they bolstered it so that you have to pay a certain amount to go in. If you're on there for a year, you have to pay $1,000, and then you start to pay $10 a day. Well, I found some loopholes in that law, and so we bumped it up. We made it even tougher if your building is empty and also not secured. So that's where all the really bad problems happen. And we also increased some of those fees. And so, that was passed unanimously. We had bipartisan support for that on the council. That was something, again, when I, was talking to the mayor and she offered me the position, that wasn't something I was thinking, I got to do this first. But it was what I did first, because I talked to folks in the community and they said, look, we have this vacant structures law on the books. It's not being utilized very well. And so I started asking questions why, and talking to people in the administration and what have some of the challenges been, et cetera. And so that's what we identified. One thing that was interesting is I went on social media, I went on Nextdoor and posted about this bill. And I got a lot of feedback, almost all good. And some people, one person specifically had a change that he wanted to the bill. And I said, you know what, that's a fair point that we didn't think of. And I made the change, and I pushed to get the amendment in, and it was amended, and that's what ended up in the final form. So I'm really trying to just listen to people, get that information in, find out what the issues are, and then try to put the work in, which is maybe the hardest part for somebody who's just like trying to figure out what they're doing. Put the work in to find out how we can actually fix it within the bounds of the law. And so that's what happened on that bill. So that was the only one I've gotten through so far. I mean, I've been on just a few months now, but yeah, so there's some other stuff I'm working on too, but we can talk about that next.
Emmett, when we look at the situation, there was somebody, you was catching backlash on some things like property. I believe it's putting like a homeless shelter near a daycare center, the Bream. Fill me in on that.
Yeah. So the through the federal money that the city's getting, we're getting $37 million. for the American Rescue Plan. That money can be used for a variety of different things. We've already set aside 25 million of that. We passed that last time in council, and that was going towards mostly things that the city is doing. So like we have the vacant structures registry, et cetera. So there's this stuff that we're spending that money. So one of the things that we're doing, one portion of the spending on the American Rescue Plan is for nonprofits that serve underserved communities, public health, et cetera, can propose things. And one of the proposals was, well, there are several proposals that were out there, many actually, I think a few dozen. And one of them was for a proposal from RCCR, which I'm terrible with acronyms, but it's a religious something community renewal, coalition for community renewal, I think. It was an established organization, well respected, and they worked with Bream Presbyterian Church to have a proposal for a location where people who don't have a house to live in could come and take showers and rest and have laundry and do these things throughout the daytime. Bream has a daycare. Actually, I went to Bream daycare when I was a little boy. So I'm an alumnus of that esteemed institution. But so the proposal was just that, and they actually, I mean, I think whether or not that's the right location for that, I think there's no question that we need to have a place. Services have been cut for the homeless since the pandemic. So some of our existing services just changed what they were doing because of the pandemic, and they didn't change it back. And so there are needs that were being met that are not being met now. And so that's why we're seeing more, I don't think it's been a huge increase, frankly, but it's been, we see a little bit more, a lot more people on the street. So we need to do this, something like it. But where, it's a good question. The state legislature wanting to make it harder for people to find locations for these things, I think was really short-sighted. I'm glad that proposal was set aside by leadership and others. But yeah, so that's what the proposal was. And it's, they have done, I think, already 2 public hearings on it. They requested that it not be considered on the same timeline as the other proposals for ARPA spending. So it's not, under immediate consideration. I think it's going to be like in 2 weeks that the other ARPA funds, not the ones that the city would be administering, but like for other nonprofits, I think those proposals are going to be considered in 2 weeks. But that specific one, and actually there was another one that they had proposed, are specifically not being going to be voted on.
Emmett, one thing in particular about the homeless, they have grown in numbers, and it seems that it's like the word gets out that, hey, come to Charleston, West Virginia. You'll be treated good there, or halfway decent, some way, somehow. But there's a problem where a lot of residents, especially on the west side, complain about the homeless. And there are other towns surrounding Charleston, like South Charleston, Dunbar, where the homeless is filtering over into their neighborhoods, into their towns. Some folks say that that's a Charleston problem. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'd be interested to see what those statistics are, if they actually have gone up in numbers. But you know, I do think that there are some. I think there are people who come from other parts, mainly from other parts of West Virginia. So these are other West Virginians who have come to Charleston, and just like, you know, a lot of people who move to Charleston are from other places. So, yeah, I mean, it's. I don't think that. I think that a lot of the problems may or may not be necessarily people who are homeless. I think there's a few different issues going on at the same time. So homelessness, not having a place to live, is a problem that we should work to fix. Help people find places they can live. Substance use issues are problems. So some of the things that can come from that, overdoses and the, you know, the natural outcroppings of from, you know, how people can act when they are addicted, and that's a different problem. And mental health issues are also problems. You know, if the DHHR is kicking people out of facilities and putting them on the street, then that may be, you know, if somebody's screaming at themselves in the middle of the street of a sidewalk, that's has little to do with whether or not they have a place to live. It has more to do with, you know, what's happening in their minds and in their you know, with their health. And so you know, these are complicated things, and there's overlap and stuff. But I don't think you know, if the concept here is oh, you know, if we just do nothing to help the people, that's going to fix the issue. I think it's actually the opposite. I think the people who are saying, oh, we shouldn't, you know, we shouldn't help people who don't have a place to live or are outside in the cold, because that just it makes it more attractive, or we shouldn't give them food. That makes it more attractive. That's actually the opposite of what's true. What's true is if they don't have anywhere to go, they are going to be out in the street, and they're going to be looking for somewhere to go, like an empty building, or like in trying to find somewhere safe to be, or find things that they can you know, get money so they can. So I think what we need to be doing is to be being compassionate about it, and finding ways to help people stay safe, have somewhere to go, have somewhere to get clean clothes, to get clean themselves, and that will help everybody. You know, it'll help with a lot of the issues that people are saying are caused by, you know, accommodating, or I don't know what the word is that people use, but you know, I just think that concept, I just don't buy into it. I don't see any evidence for that, because what happened actually, you know, to the extent people are saying, oh, well, there's more people now than there were 2 years ago, it seems like it because there's more, they don't have nowhere to go. And so we need to find, you know, because the services have been changed. Covenant House is doing something different now from what they were doing before. And so we need to find what, you know, new solutions.
Another issue is the opioid crisis. What steps, I know it's a long fighting battle, Emmett. What are the steps is the city willing to take to curb this? I know that there's SOAR, the needle exchange program. That's, you know, that's in effect. What
That's been, I think, right? I mean,
huh?
the needle exchange. There's the only needle exchange in the city, I believe, is at Health Right.
That's right. Okay, then maybe they shut it down as far as SOAR. What is the city, has the city, is the city in conjunction with West Virginia Health Right in the needle exchange program?
Yeah, we the city. So I mean, as you may know, last year the state legislature passed a law that greatly inhibited the ability for anyone to have harm reduction that includes a needle exchange. And then the city council, I wasn't there yet, passed a law that was even a little bit more stringent on a couple of different things, but mostly the state already did everything, and made it so that because of the issue with the organization you mentioned earlier, and I think that there's probably a lot of and I wasn't on city council then, so I don't want to get into a whole thing with it because I can't. It's easier for me to take pot shots because I wasn't on the city council, but the people who are involved with SOAR, what I heard from folks in the community on the west side was that they didn't feel like they were consulted, or that there was input taken from the actual community where they were doing it, and so that was what drove a lot of the kind of anger about that. And I think it probably the people who had those legitimate concerns or feelings of not being consulted were joined with people who just aren't particularly sympathetic or empathetic towards people who are in an active addiction. And so I think that kind of those two forces kind of teamed up together, and that's how we ended up with some of the laws that we have in the city. So, but how do we move forward? I mean, that's what's more important, right? I mean, one thing I think is we should not be politicizing this issue at all. And what I mean by that is we should not be, trying to use, if you don't like some politician, trying to use this public health issue as a reason that somebody should or shouldn't like them either, because it's a public health issue that we should be working on and working towards solutions on based on, what public health experts say are the way to deal with it. And likewise, we should not be using people who are suffering for our own political campaigns. And I mean, look, the people who are involved with SOAR are very closely aligned with a lot of other, with a political group. And so, it doesn't make sense to me to be politicizing it from that way either. I think we should be looking at this issue and trying to look for solutions that asks input from the community, and that is responsive to the community, but that also is based in science and in public health best practices. And so that's not easy to do. That's more difficult, and that's going to be imperfect, and it's going to be incremental, and it's not going to be the right answer. If we're looking for, public health experts say this, and so we're just going to do that, that's not going to work, because people are, if the public isn't ready for it. But on the same side, we shouldn't be saying, well, you're doing this and that's causing XYZ problem. So I don't think there are a lot of easy solutions, but we have to be working towards those goals. I think that's the framework I would like to look at it from, is to involve the community, but also focus on what the best science is behind it. And look, I haven't really said anything good about SOAR so far, but I actually did a trash cleanup with them maybe a month or two ago, And they're doing this, I think, every month, where they are going around and they go into places where they think that there may be a high likelihood of syringes, and they are picking up syringes that they find and counting them, but they're also just picking up the trash. And I love a good trash pickup, so I went with them and picked up helped them pick up some trash. And we actually, in my little group, we only found one syringe the whole time, and this was over on the west side, in the flats there near Washington Street. So I think I commend them for doing that kind of thing. That's the exact sort of thing I think we should be doing more of. It's like, nobody is going to be against going around and picking up trash and syringes. That is 100% like what everybody would agree with. And so I think I'm glad they're doing that. I hope they're doing a lot more of that stuff, and not making it a political issue, and just trying to find solutions.
Emmett, one other issue is this city has dealt with 12 years of Danny Jones. And it's safe to say
16, right?
Huh?
He was there for 16. Wasn't he there for 16 years?
4 terms? No, 12 years. 12.
The 12, okay.
Yeah. And and so he ran this city in the ground. It got to the point where, again, the population declined. I saw online that right now the population in Charleston is at 51,000.
I think we're under that. I think we're like 48 or something like that.
40. Okay.
Yeah. We dropped down below 50,000. I knew that for sure in this last census.
One issue is the social life, like clubs and stuff like that. This is the capital city, and you're looking at situations where people travel. They come here for business, and they're looking for after hours enjoyment. But a lot of places close early. So how? As a council member, have you all addressed or look into trying to extend hours, or come up with a plan to say, okay, we have to entertain our guests as well, because again, we just have to we have to be open-minded. Some people look at it as, if the bars are open, you're looking at crime and wrongdoing. Have you all looked into something like that?
I'm actually not familiar with that. I thought that the bars are always open pretty late. I feel like I can never stay up late enough to go see music. But frankly, I haven't been going to out not much at all during the pandemic, and but no, I'm not actually as familiar with that issue. I think that the Empty Glass is usually open pretty late, and the bars on the boulevard, but I got a 4-year-old, man. I don't know. I don't know what's going on anymore. I used to go out. I used to have friends.
Welcome to the club, because when the baby is here, all that stops. Okay.
Yeah.
I know personally with me, with my first child, when she was pregnant, I will go out, I'll go watch Bob Thompson, just for a certain period of time, that block right there. And then I'll go home. That's it. No later than that, And ever since my kid was born, my daughter and everything, now I had 2. Again, I don't really go out anywhere, and because again, I know what you mean. I know how you feel.
Yeah.
And so it's different. But some folks, that don't have kids, they look at it as, we don't have anything to do. This is Charleston. This is the state capital. Some folks have the mindset of there should be a That should have the same mindset as the big cities like Manhattan or DC, things like that. You follow me?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'll say this. If there's something you want there to be, make it happen. And I'm happy to help if I can be of any help. I mean, I think not to bring this up again, but I mean, we thought that there should be an independent cinema in Charleston. And so we made it happen. And it was hard and it took time and we had to raise money and all that. But we made it happen. And, Chris Long and Kenny and you and everybody thought that there should be a community radio station that plays music that people are passionate about. And they put the work in, dealt with the FCC. I mean, can you imagine? And they made it happen. And so I think that that's the thing that we can do. I mean, if there's some role the government can play, please let me know. I'm happy to help with that. But if there's something you want to do, I think you just kind of do it, and find a way to get other people to join you, especially if yeah. So I mean, I think that's the way to do it. And I'm happy to, if I can be of assistance, I'm all in, because I want there to be stuff like that. I want there to be more opportunities for us to do fun stuff and to have like little niche things. There was one time, maybe it was 5 years ago now, where somebody who lives in New York came back for, I think it was her birthday weekend, and she like made a goth club in the upstairs of Sam's. And so that we like had like a goth club in Charleston, West Virginia for one night, and that's like, we don't have a goth club. We can't do that. But it was like one time,
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was fun. It was, I wore all black. I had a trench coat. It was cool. I was like kind of a cyberpunk guy. But people can do stuff. We can do fun things like that. Yeah, look, we're not New York and we're not DC. We're not going to be able to sustain those sorts of things year round. We don't have huge numbers of people, but we can do fun things like that, and people show up. I mean, you do, especially it seems like during festival, people just like turn their heads towards the arts, and it's amazing. People will just show up to things, and you would struggle in the rest of the year when festival wasn't happening to get people to come. And something about festival, they have this magic, and they can get people to come out, and it's great. And so if you have ideas for things like that, talk to people about it. I'm happy to help. But sometimes it takes you have to like push for your passions and make the city you want.
Emmett, I have a few more questions, a couple more, and I'm going to let you go. Okay. Again, you fill in the seat of the late John Kennedy Bailey. If reelected, what goals do you have for the next 4 years that you want to accomplish?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think I talked a little bit about some of it. I'll just say, I think broadly, I'm looking to make this to help move the city towards doing more things that makes it the kind of city where people want to raise their families. They want to move here. When they move here, they want to stay here. And so what does that mean? It means addressing, I think some of the biggest things that we need to diversify our economy. For decades, we've been relying on these large industries, fossil fuels and chemical industries, and that's fine, but we need to be doing more than adding to that and getting finding ways to encourage entrepreneurialism. One of the things I've been talking with the administration about is what can we do for small businesses. And so the three things that the main thing we're going to be doing, and the mayor just introduced this earlier this week, was to create a new job that is the small business liaison, to help small businesses to kind of like get through that process of becoming a new business and all the, the things that you have to do that maybe, somebody who knows how to run a small business and do something really well, maybe doesn't necessarily know every single part of the city code. What they know well is their business. And so we want somebody that can help them, get through that stuff. And so they can do what they're passionate about and not get, some issue down the road where they haven't done something they had to do under the law. Another thing we're looking at for small businesses is just for the really small businesses, make it so instead of having to remember every quarter to pay this, either the B&O tax or the city services fee, that they can do it annually if they're small enough. And so, is that going to like change the tide? Well, no, but I mean, I'm just trying to make it a little bit easier for people so that they can focus on, growing their businesses. And so I think, to the extent we can do that, work on broadband, we just committed significant funding for infrastructure, including broadband, and making it so that people can have different kinds of jobs here. I hope we get a lot of people here who move downtown. I mean, I'm bummed that the WTSQ has to move out of the Union Building, but I would love to see lots of people living in there, walking down up and down Capitol Street, going to Taylor Books, going to the restaurants, and the Atlas. I was talking to somebody last night when I saw you who lives in the Atlas Building, and he said it's it's great. It's like walks everywhere pretty much downtown, and that's what we want to see. We want to see that kind of vibrancy in our community, that makes it much more attractive. That kind of builds on itself. So I think that's great. I mean, we just need to do a lot more of that. Let's like make the city more what we want it to be. We want to make it walkable. We want to make it friendly to everybody, no matter who you are, how rich you are, or what your background is, or any of that. And so we want to really make it a welcoming place.
Emmett, I'm going to close it out like this. Role play. Okay?
I'll try.
Now, I am the undecided voter. You ready? Let me ask you this right here. One last time. Why should the people vote for Emmett Pepper? Go.
Yeah, you should vote for me because I'm from here. I'm raising my family here. I've been committed to making the city and the state and actually the world better for my entire career. And so I've already, only been in the office for a few months and already on my way to getting some of that done. Already gotten some bills on the books, and so I'm able to accomplish things, work together with others to make things happen. But I'm going to be passionate about it. I'm going to work hard for it, and I'm invested here. I'm helping take over my dad's 40-year law firm. I'm not going anywhere. I'm committed. I've already got some accomplishments, and so I'm going to keep that momentum going now on city council.
Emmett Pepper, hey man, it's been good talking to you, man.
Likewise.
It's been good talking to
man.
You. All right.
Keep texting too.
Hey, you take care, be safe, okay?
Thanks.
Don't go anywhere. Hold on.